it's much bigger than marijuana, as you know.
Yeah,
It,
for sure.
it's about the relationship between the citizen and the state.
And it's the relationship between the state governments and the federal government, and the
Exactly.
relationship between international law and domestic criminal policy in the United States, which is now dictated by, a treaty championed by Harry Anslinger in 1967,
Oh God.
designed to prevent state legalization from happening, which is an absolute anathema to fundamental constitutional norms that protect individual liberties, that reverberates far beyond cannabis. And now, as a result of that, and our inability to be responsible with the constitutional system that's given us liberty for hundreds of years, we now have manifest lawlessness across the country, sponsored by and profited off of by the federal government that we pay taxes to. And all of it is driven, the only way it works is through these lawless foundations. And then built upon that, it took decades of anti science policies, robust,
Yeah.
on their face,
Yeah.
like explicit anti science policies. I mean, this goes back to things like Galileo, right? And like the Dark Age. And, these should be things that you should never see, right? And so now
Yeah.
we have a presidential administration that's focused on science and data driven harm reduction approach to drug policy. And everybody can be criticized. There's always more to do and so forth. But it
Right.
is gives me some modicum of hope that we are, looks like, because of the work of so many people
Yeah.
along the way, and now all of the hard work that we're doing now, that we might be about to turn the page a little bit.
Well, you see, it's those things are happening and those are positive. And we'll get into the incrementalism in a little bit. But you still see this deeply conditioned response mechanism throughout the system. I was just at a committee hearing in Maine addressing some legislation there yesterday that's addressing hemp products and cannabinoids derived from hemp, which is a
Yep.
whole other ball of wax. But
Yep.
the language that comes from that is the conditioned fear language, the dangers of THC. We don't want kids to have it. Yeah, I get it, all the normal things, but the fundamental misunderstanding of the plant and the dangers and the inability to see the obviousness of compare the properties of a cannabis plant to an alcohol beverage, to the pharmaceuticals that were overprescribed in this country. Where are our priorities, and why are we fixated on continuing to, use the Anslinger messaging that has been, completely disproven with real science over the last couple of decades, and some good
Yeah, I
work.
mean, you can take fairy tale stories like, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and we read a lot of, it gets me back into children's stories and nursery rhymes. And the
It's the
other night
best,
we were
right?
reading, what's that?
It's the best.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. But it's amazing. Like, it's amazing how deep this goes. Like, the emperor's new clothes. My 5-year-old
Yeah.
understands that intuitively, right? How ludicrous this is, for someone in power to use their power to just foist an illusion onto the public that's beholden to them, right? And even a child in the story can see that this is absurd. And we
Right.
are at that point. We are at the point now where you can debate how things ought to be regulated. You can debate how dangerous things are, because the fact of the matter is, we still don't have the research that we should have, because again, the federal government
That's
blocked the
right.
laboratory door for
That's
50 years.
right.
So that's what happens when you have, a prohibitionist mentality getting in the way of fundamental sort of constitutional norms and
Well,
enlightenment thinking, right? It's just,
detrimental to the whole system. Why do we have a proliferation of conspiracy concepts and things like that? Because we're lacking in trust in the foundations of government, that what it's doing is on the benefit of the citizen and is truthful and is based in fact and reason. And
no,
when
I
it's
mean,
not, and when you can see that it's not consistently at a high level, and there's harmful effects of it that are harming communities across the world,
yep.
of course there's going to be mistrust, and of course that kind of mindset's going to permeate elsewhere, because how can you trust anything coming out? And you
And
could
one
see
thing I
that
think
in the
that's
COVID
happened
response.
that we don't talk about enough is, we know that there are like actual harms from, our lack of knowledge and our lack of ability to regulate, and to have just a market that isn't inflated, inflating prices of regulated products with 280E
Right.
tax burdens just creates the illicit market that the prohibitionists say that they're trying to get rid of. And it's just facially absurd to anyone who's ever even thought about economics briefly at any point in their life. But putting that aside, it's just, it's the fundamental thing to me that we don't talk about is, we all want like a call memo. We all want DOJ to, don't have keep enforcement a low priority. Let's like have it illegal, but don't
Right.
just as long as you don't do anything. And I get that. Obviously, I don't want the federal government to come and start enforcing these ridiculous laws. On the other hand, what people don't talk about is the damage that it does to have a whole system of laws on the books that make no sense and that aren't enforced, right? The rule of law requires laws to be law-like on
Yeah.
some level. And it's one thing to talk about a prosecutor exercising discretion to bring a case or not. But when you have entire swaths of law that Congress keeps telling the federal government, you may not enforce these laws, you can't spend any money to interfere with what the states are doing, but we're still going to criminalize it. We're still going to pretend that it's drug dealing and these people are drug abusers. And if they present that medical marijuana card at an academy, we're not going to let them exercise their Second Amendment right to defend themselves in their homes, even if they were veterans,
Yeah.
even if they bore arms overseas and put their life at risk to defend the country. Still, they're a drug abuser, put it away, right?
Yeah.
That's insanity. It is not law.
And it's disparate impact. At the same time, you can have $1 billion publicly traded marijuana multi-state operator and people getting arrested for the plant.
Yep.
That can't hold up. It's
And of
incoherent.
course, we could go on and on about this, right? But everybody who's listening probably already is on with us on these points. But that's what got me into it. I mean, if that doesn't, and I'm not even, this wasn't even an issue for me until, very late in life. And it's not because I'm, personally attached to cannabis from my backstory. I mean, I wasn't.
No, I get it. Yeah.
It's from seeing the lawlessness.